Hi. This video you are watching is part of the series titled, The Big Questions in Life and Christianity. The topics in the series are, as per the list here. If you are interested in this series, it is best to watch them in order, starting from introduction. This is because there are dependencies between them.
Also, as said in the introduction for this series, this video is not for entertainment, but for disseminating serious information. It needs to be watched as if reading a textbook, for information. Words are important, and this video tries not to have too many movements that distract the audience from words and sentences. The topic for this video is, what is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life? As humanity toils in repetitive cycles, under the sun, this question has been asked by most, for a very long time indeed. Books, poems and scholarly articles have been written to answer this question over the years. Some people considers this as the pinnacle among questions. We hope to give you a well-rounded and logical answer to this question. So this video will be longer than normal. You might want to watch it in 2 sittings.
The way we will approach this topic is to first provide you with the definition of the meaning of life.
To immerse your mind into this topic, we will next take you through a couple of subtopics, for context. Common examples of meaning, adopted by some people, for living life. And also, the importance of meaning, for living life.
Then we will go deeper, and take you through the 3 major philosophical perspectives, with Christianity representing one perspective.
Within these perspectives, we will also talk you through the relationship between science, faith, psychology, philosophy, Christianity, and the meaning of life.
We will then summarize with a big picture of the meaning of life, to link all areas we explained.
Hopefully, by the time we finish, you will have a well-rounded perspective on this topic and a clear answer to this question. What is the meaning of life?
This video makes reference to previous videos. So, it would be helpful if you have been through previous videos. What does meaning of life mean? As you know, there is no point answering any question unless we are clear about the question itself. So, let us look into the definition of the term meaning of life before we unpack the topic of this video. Let us first look at the 2 words, meaning and life, separately. After then we will put them together.
The semantic, dictionary definition of the word meaning equates to purpose. What something is intended to be. What something actually is.
Life, in the context of this video, is existence for an individual person, or existence for the general human race.
So, putting these 2 words together, the definition of meaning of life equates to the purpose of human existence. What human existence is intended to be, and what human existence is about. In short, meaning of life means purpose for human existence. You know, all people, either consciously or subconsciously, live their lives according to one or many purposes to which they believe. Let us go through some common examples of this to start immersing our minds into this topic.
Okay. Let us now go through some common examples of purpose and meaning for living life for some people. For example, having good, lifelong relationships with spouse, family members, and friends provide meaning and purpose for living life for some people. Other examples include
caring and nurturing of children, grandchildren, and those who are vulnerable in society.
Increasing stature and mastery in chosen profession.
Volunteering and contributing to community, and become ever more charitable to others.
Leaving behind a legacy of valuable knowledge and experience. And/or memories of love and joy.
Pursuing a healthy, secure, and comfortable retirement.
Living a good and moral life, and making contributions toward a better world.
For many people, these items we listed are meaning and purpose of life, for them. What life is intended to be, for them. And what life actually is about, for them. Some people think that interest in this topic of meaning is merely for academic reasons. But, in fact, meaning makes real, tangible contributions toward living better lives. Let us give you 5 reasons why meaning is important for us. Firstly, having meaning is important, as it supports our physiological and mental well-being. Many scientific studies conducted indicate that meaning plays an important positive role in chronically ill patients, cancer sufferers, mental health patients, elderly people, and teenagers growing up. Our bodies are wired for us to have meaning in our lives. Is this random chance? Or are we designed for meaning?
Meaning and purpose in life provides drive and motivation for our daily lives. This is also demonstrated in scientific studies on what is called future time perspective.
Meaning and purpose in life guides us in how we prioritize our activities, our resources, and our time.
Meaning in life assists us in coping with crisis in life.
And finally, meaning in life helps us die in peace.
Now that we have sketched you the definition, given you some common examples, and articulated its importance, we hope we have by now put your mind squarely into this topic of meaning of life. We will now take you deeper and broader.
A review of numerous scholarly articles over the last 50 years reveal that there are 3 major groups of perspectives on the meaning of life. Namely, the nihilistic view.
This view rejects existence of God, and therefore concludes that there is no logical way of having meaning for human life.
The naturalistic view.
This view also rejects existence of God, but believes that a meaningful life is possible. This view believes that meaning comes from nature, from within the universe.
The supernaturalistic view.
This view believes in God's existence, and it is God, the Creator, who provides meaning and purpose to life.
Let us next examine each of these in more detail. Let's start with the nihilistic perspective. Nihilism, which means nothing, represents the view that there is no meaning of life. Nihilism has 3 main reasons why there is no meaning of life. Firstly, nihilism holds premises that 1. God does not exist. In fact, the premise that God does not exist is the overarching premise in nihilism. 2. Meaning, for anything purposefully created, is defined by its creator. Conclusion. Since a creator, God, does not exist, life is not purposefully created. This perspective was brought into focus in the late 19th century by Friedrich Nietzsche, a famous German philosopher. He exerted a profound influence on modern intellectual history. Nietzsche coined the phrase, "God is dead," and predicted the onset of nihilism. Like others of his time, Nietzsche believed that science has killed any notion of a creator God. And, without God, there can be no meaning to life for humanity. So, reason 1. Without God, logic tells that there is no meaning of life.
Secondly, the meaning of life must have 3 key characteristics. It has to be intrinsic to human life, discovered not concocted, and universal across all humanity. Reason 2. Without God, no one has found the meaning of life with these characteristics.
Thirdly, no one can explain the realities of human existence and the predicaments humans face, including death and a dying universe. No one can explain why good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. Why man-made or natural disasters take place to destroy lives and communities. How humans, like microbes, appear and disappear on the surface of cosmic dust, has significance in the vast universe. What the purpose of toil, stress, and even pleasant experiences are, to then only just die and cease to exist. Does love, charity, and peace, on a speck of cosmic dust, mean anything in a dying universe? What is the meaning and purpose of all the things that happen in our lives? Reason 3. Without God, no one can explain the meaning behind realities and predicaments humans face in life and in death.
Since there is no God, there is no meaning of life. 150 years ago, Nietzsche foresaw the impact of nihilism on lives and societies.
What is this impact?
You see, Nietzsche, being an atheist, believed there is no God. Therefore, logically, no purpose and meaning. And no moral right and wrong, as covered in video 4. Though Nietzsche brought nihilism into focus, he did not advocate that nihilism is good. He believed that nihilism will bring about corrosion of lives and societies. So he called for a new way of thinking about meaning. In spite of his call, belief in atheism and nihilism accelerated and has taken hold in many societies. Many people around the world think that science has killed any notion of a creator God. Perhaps this has at least, in part, contributed to the increasing amount of broken lives, broken families, bizarre crimes, and broken societies, according to what Nietzsche and others foresaw 150 years ago.
The Christian response to this is the statement, "If God does not exist, life has no objective meaning," is a logical statement. Christianity obviously disagrees that God does not exist. At the heart of Christianity is a real, living, and personally knowable God, who is in control of the universe, and who provides objective meaning and purpose for human existence. Because Christians know God, Christians can explain the meaning of life that nihilism cannot. Christianity can explain life and death, good and evil, human worth and significance, logic, and science that surround us, the beauty of design, and yet decay in the universe, the eternal destiny for humanity, and the meaning of human life. We will dive deeper on these later in this video.
The naturalistic perspective. Like nihilism, naturalism believes that neither God nor a spiritual realm exist. Naturalism believes that the universe sprung into existence by itself, without a creator, and therefore also accepts that the universe, including humanity, came into existence without design, purpose, nor meaning. Point 1. Naturalism accepts there is no universal meaning of life for humanity, according to design. I need to digress here to tell you that there are two major strands of naturalism: subjective naturalism and objective naturalism. It is subjective naturalism that has traction, and hence most represents naturalism as a whole. So, we will use subjective naturalism as proxy to first make a few general comments about naturalism to kick off. We will cover both strands later and explain why objective naturalism has not taken off. Okay, let's continue.
Even though naturalism accepts the truth that it cannot explain meaning of life without a creator, God, naturalism, still persists in providing meaning. Because meaning is important for living life. Naturalism searches for, and provides purposes, to motivate people, to live life, well. This motivational meaning is usually called, meaning, in, life. It is motivation, for living life. And it varies from person to person. Point 2. Although there is no meaning, of, life, it is important to find motivational meaning, for living life, called, meaning, in, life.
So that you are absolutely clear with the difference between meaning in life and meaning of life, please let us reiterate succinctly. Meaning in life is a collection of purposes that motivates people to live life. Purposes that motivate varies from person to person. Meaning of life is the universal purpose and reason for human existence in our vast universe. Meaning in life does not equate to meaning of life.
Now, with this said, it should also be noted that both these are meanings relevant to life. So, we will explain both to you as we move forward. Also, at this point, it is worth stating that meaning of life encompasses meaning in life. More about this later.
Now that you understand, naturalism provides a different type of meaning and still plays an important role for living life. Let us now go deeper. Naturalism searches for meaning in life from within the observable physical universe, including humans, which means from within nature. Hence the name naturalism. Point 3. Naturalism searches for motivational meaning in life from within nature, and it varies from person to person. It is not universal.
The examples we gave you earlier, to get your mind into this topic, were actually meaning in life examples, not meaning of life examples. These examples fall within this naturalistic perspective.
As mentioned before, naturalism has two major strands: subjective naturalism and objective naturalism. We can only afford to cover them briefly.
According to subjective naturalism, a meaningful life is a life of getting what one strongly wants, or achieving self-established goals, or accomplishing what one believes to be really important. This perspective believes that one's fulfillment or satisfaction is the essence of meaningful life. The problem with this perspective is that it is too permissive. It allows for weird and immoral activities to ground meaning in life. For example, we would not consider a life lived, fulfilling a strong ambition, to count grains of sand on a beach, as meaningful. Nor a life lived that found deep satisfaction in torturing people. This makes subjective naturalism, with its definition, hard to accept by most.
According to objective naturalism, a meaningful life is a life that embraces some invariant standards in the natural physical world. These standards must be based on objective worth, independent of the human mind, and independent of God, or any spiritual realm, and inherently worthwhile in themselves, not because they are wanted, chosen, or just believed to be meaningful. The problem with this perspective is the difficulty in identifying the activities and goals in life that are objectively and inherently worthwhile, not just subjective opinions of people. That is, inherent value in the activities and goals, and are independent of the human mind. As illustration, two suggestions for meaning in life, from this perspective, include maximizing human excellence in oneself, and living out a good life. The problem with these two examples is, what is human excellence? And, what is good? That is invariant and intrinsic in nature. This actually brings us back to what we covered in video 4 on what is good and evil. Without God, no one has been able to anchor what is morally good.
Essentially, there is no agreement on what are the invariant standards that are objectively and inherently worthwhile for living life. In short, objective naturalism has not found anything that explains meaning in accord with its definition of meaning. This is why it has no traction anywhere.
It looks like I am not getting any answers from naturalism, even just for meaning in life.
Yes, but what we have given you so far is just from a standard philosophical perspective. Over the last 20 to 30 years, experimental science has been contributing new insights to both naturalism and supernaturalism.
This field of science, which stemmed from the school of psychology, could be referred to as the science of mental well-being. It is a field of study into what makes life most worth living, what makes life authentically happy. I am sure you can already see the intersection. To be authentically happy is assumed to be the purpose and meaning in life. So those activities in life that make humanity authentically happy are those that provide purpose and meaning in life.
Because this field of science heavily intersects with both naturalism and supernaturalism, we need to pause and sidestep into this science.
We will then come back to naturalism to finish it off.
We will first explain to you the science of mental well-being. After that, we will connect it with meaning in life. This science is about what it takes to have a healthy mind. It involves understanding domains of beneficial activities in life that contributes to mental well-being, and methodologies using human character strengths to pursue these domains of beneficial activities.
As this field of science is still in development, there are a number of theories in play in this field on mental well-being. Even so, there is convergence on domains of beneficial activities in life that promote mental well-being. Let us now take you through one of these theories, called the PERMA theory of well-being. It is a very good representation of this overall field of science. It is by Professor Martin Seligman. Seligman is a leading scientist and founder of positive psychology, a major field of research in psychology. According to this theory, beneficial activities in life are not just from the domain that provides good bodily feelings, called hedonic effects, but also those that enable good functioning of the mind, called eudaimonic effects. Science and statistical analysis support the existence of 5 domains of activities in life that provide these effects, that promote well-being. We will explain each of these 5 domains.
The first domain consists of activities that provide positive emotions. These emotions are associated with savoring current, physical pleasures, cultivating gratitude and forgiveness for the past, and building hope and optimism for the future. Examples of positive emotions include pleasure, inspiration, hope, curiosity, love, satisfaction, gratitude, and peace.
The second is engagement. Engaging activities are those that keeps us in the present, and self-awareness disappears. That absorbs us in the blissful flow of the activity, that makes us lose track of time. These activities are themselves rewards, rather than their outputs. Examples include activities like listening to music, having a good conversation, gardening, reading a book, or doing sports training.
The third is relationship. These are activities involved in healthy relationships and social connections with family members, co-workers, friends, and co-members of interest groups. You know, research show that pain sensors in our brain are activated when we are at risk of isolation from others. Also, research tells us that doing acts of kindness for others produces an increase in well-being.
The fourth is meaning. In this context, meaning represents transcendence. The activities in this domain are those that are done for reasons beyond self, that are bigger than self, that transcend self. Examples include volunteering in local community projects, campaigning for action against climate change, giving to charities, believing in God, raising children, caring for others, and leaving worthwhile legacies for future generations.
And finally, the fifth is accomplishment. These are activities in life involved in pursuing achievement, competence, success, and mastery. Accomplishment could be attained in the workplace, in sports, in games, and in hobbies.
This science has also identified 24 human character strengths that should be used to pursue these 5 domains of beneficial activities in life. As wrap up on this quick explanation on the science of mental well-being, you should know that no one domain defines well-being, but each contributes to it. Also, activities in each domain varies from person to person. And different people derive well-being from each of these 5 domains to varying degrees. What is good for well-being for one person is not necessarily good for another. This field of science does not tell people what choices to make, but help people make more informed choices, aligned with their values and interests.
We have covered a lot of information for you on the science of mental well-being in a very short space of time. Let us now bring all this information back to the topic of meaning in life. Okay. Let's start explaining the connection between this science and meaning in life.
In summary, in the last 30 years, the science of well-being has discovered that if we live lives performing activities from within permadomains, our bodies and our brains respond in a happy and healthy manner.
Over this same period, these domains that science discovered have crossed over into philosophy and also assumed roles as elements that provide meaning in life. This is the connection. This is what brings us back to the main flow of this video. That is, in the last 30 years,
activities that are beneficial to happiness and wellness
have been equated to
meaning in life. To help you internalize this, let us take you back to the meaning in life examples that we gave you before, and connect them to this diagram here to illustrate what we mean.
We said earlier that the science of well-being informs us that having good relationships provide us with healthy minds and bodies. For some people, this has become meaning in life for them. For example, relationship in the form of a good marriage is meaning in life for them.
We said, doing activities that are beyond self, that are bigger than self, that transcends self, are healthy for our minds and bodies. Caring for and nurturing children is an activity that is beyond self. For some people, this not only helps with mental well-being, but also provides meaning in life. Can you see how the field of psychology and the science of mental well-being, in the last 20 to 30 years, has progressively intersected into the philosophy of meaning in life. But remember, not all activities apply to all people. Though caring and nurturing children is beneficial to some, it is not to others. Other transcendent activities include volunteering for community projects, discovering and leaving valuable knowledge and experiences to future generations, doing what is right and moral towards others.
Accomplishment is another domain that contributes to a healthier mind. For many people, their career and mastery in a skill or skills provide for them meaning in life. Similarly, striving for and achieving a secure, healthy, and comfortable retirement provide for them meaning in life.
Yet for others, doing activities that are engaging and pleasurable represent meaning in life for them.
We hope you can now see how the science of psychology, of mental well-being, has become part of the vernacular of the philosophy of meaning in life. Also, you will have noticed that the science of mental well-being includes believing in God as a beneficial activity in life for some people. This is unlike naturalism, which excludes God in its considerations. This is why we said earlier that the science of mental well-being straddles both naturalism and supernaturalism. Let us now go back and complete the naturalistic perspective, and then move on to the supernaturalistic perspective.
Let us now return to where we paused earlier. In the last 20 to 30 years, domain of beneficial activities for mental health has traversed across into philosophy to become elements representing meaning in life for naturalism. It has, to some degree, filtered out weird and immoral activities out of subjective naturalism by providing narrower definitions for fulfillment and satisfaction, and provided naturalism with a stronger scientific basis. But it has not provided invariant, non-subjective standards required by objective naturalism. All this sums up the current state of progress from a naturalistic perspective.
Let us now give you a few comments on naturalism from a Christian perspective. It is good that psychologists are using these beneficial activities as meaning in life for helping people. We all need good mental health. We all want to be happy and motivated to live satisfying lives. So, without a doubt, Christianity agrees with initiatives that help with good mental health and motivation to live life. As opposed to naturalism, Christianity believes in a creator God. With this, Christianity believes that ultimate happiness, satisfaction, peace, and security is available from the Creator for eternity. Being an offshoot of atheism, naturalism does not allow this to be considered. And naturalism has no explanation for the meaning of life.
At the end of the day, people should ask for themselves, is my chosen meaning in life sufficient to live life? Robust enough to cope with crisis in life? And finally, valid for facing death? If not, supernaturalism should be considered. We will next cover supernaturalism, the last of the three perspectives we said we will cover. The supernaturalistic perspective. This perspective argues that believing in the existence of God and a spiritual realm is necessary for providing the meaning of life. Actually, nihilism and naturalism also believe that this is logically true. But they just would not accept that God exists. Supernaturalism does. This perspective will be explained with Christianity, in accord with this video series, which is the big questions in life, and Christianity. We have to first give you a couple of points from video 2 and 3 for background before we can explain the meaning of life.
You know, creators create objects of creation with a purpose. We explained in video 2 that God the Creator created the universe for His glory. In other words, the universe and humanity have been created to express and display the glorious attributes of God.
When the universe, and all in it, is at its final destiny, all people throughout history will acknowledge God as amazingly glorious, as the true and only sovereign of the universe, as the sole definer of good and evil, as covered in video 4, and as the final authority to judge everyone from throughout history. God's attributes of power and wisdom, of love and kindness, of patience, of grace and mercy, of faithfulness, of uncompromising purity, total rejection of any sin, of sovereignty over all, including those who reject Him, of justice, of righteous anger, and just wrath, and of perfect balance in expression, will be all clearly demonstrated through human lives by the time of judgment of humanity. The amazing attributes of God will be acknowledged and accepted by everyone He created throughout history.
Now that we have given you these 2 points from previous videos as background, let us now give you the meaning of life. There are 2 levels of understanding of meaning of life. Firstly, the basic, universal purpose and meaning for human lives, collectively, is to participate in the communication of the glorious attributes of God, who is Spirit. This is the invariant, ubiquitous meaning of life for all humanity. This is the purpose and reason for human lives, whether people know it or not. When the universe reaches its final destiny, everyone that existed throughout history served, and will continue to serve, this purpose, reason, and meaning for human lives, be this with God or away from God.
The second level of understanding is a category within the basic universal meaning for human life. We will call this the supreme meaning. The supreme purpose and meaning for human lives is to personally know and live in joy with God. Living in absolute delight with God is testimony of God's glorious attributes. Such lives will sing and communicate the praises of God. Those who do not personally know God, though will still communicate aspects of God's glory, will be separated from God and His good provisions for eternity.
The impediment to living out the supreme meaning of life is that all humanity is deeply sinful, bar none. All humanity has fallen from the original design state, is in rebellion against God as the sovereign, and commits evil thoughts, words, and deeds. This is all covered in video 4. Humanity, without intervention by God, cannot know God personally, nor have any relationship with Him. Without intervention by God, everyone is separated from God, due to sinfulness in each and every one of us. Without intervention by God, no one can live life according to the supreme meaning of life.
The solution. God entered our world, in flesh, in Jesus, to pay for sins of those who truly believe in Jesus, and how Jesus suffered for them. Those with their sins paid are able to know God personally, and can live lives according to the supreme meaning of life, albeit feebly in this life, but fully in the life to come. They will sing the praises of God's grace, and mercy, and love, and faithfulness, and power, and wisdom, and so on.
As said before, people who reject God, or do not personally know God, still communicate various aspects of God's glorious attributes. Whether with God, or separated from God, human lives serve the ubiquitous purpose and meaning to reflect, communicate, display, and demonstrate various aspects of the glory of God. You should pause the video here and have a think about how the two groups of people, knowingly or unknowingly, serve to demonstrate the various attributes of God.
When creation reaches its destiny, the universe, with human lives lived out, paints a picture of God for all creation to see and accept as truth of God forever and ever.
Great. I think I got it. I think I understand the logic behind the meaning of life that you explained. But, how do you relate this back to the science you talked about earlier?
Good question. Let us answer your question next, and then conclude. You know, at a foundational level, science is a discipline, using demonstrated truths, that uncovers laws that govern the properties and behavior of matter, that is substance, and energy, in our world, and across the universe. It is great that scientists and mathematicians have uncovered these laws and applied them to make life better for us. But, let me ask you, why do matter and energy obey these laws? Why? Where do these laws come from?
I don't know. Maybe it comes from a higher scientific law that overarches multiple laws, and we have not discovered this higher law yet.
Okay. Fair enough. But, where does that higher scientific law comes from?
Maybe another yet higher law.
So, where do we stop?
I don't know. We just keep going?
Even if we find a super scientific law that overarches all other scientific laws, we need to ask, where does this super scientific law comes from?
Maybe this super scientific law just exists.
So, if you believe that this super law just exists without scientific evidence, does it mean you believe in it by faith, not logic and science?
Okay. I am not saying I believe in a super scientific law. I just have not thought about this enough. I know where you are going with this. Believing that a super scientific law just simply existed when there was no universe, and then creating the universe, is believing in this by faith, not science, nor logic. Believing this, or believing in a creator God, are both by faith.
Yes, agree. Ultimately, people who adopt science alone as a means for explaining life do so by treating science as religious faith. Christianity believes that God put scientific laws in place to govern the processes in nature. The important point is not whether God put one scientific law or many scientific laws in place. The important point is God put these scientific laws in place with an ultimate purpose, which we described earlier. These scientific laws do not traverse the universe aimlessly. Scientific laws exist to support the purpose of the universe. Science very much aligns with truth and logic in Christianity, and Christianity very much embraces science. With this said, it is also important to note what is not science, as we move back to the science of mental health and the meaning of life.
Now let us look at the science of our body. Our body is estimated to have about 30 trillion cells. These cells have to come together in a particular way for our body to function.
Since we have been talking about mental health, let us look at nerve cells in our brains. There are 86 billion nerve cells in our brains, which have to come together in a particular way for us to have memory, emotions, and cognitive abilities. You can see the components in this nerve cell, which is an extremely sophisticated factory, and requires information to operate. You know, on the average, there are 100 trillion atoms, all in the right places, to make one cell work. DNA resides in the cell nucleus and stores information for the cell to operate. As you can see, atoms in the DNA molecule are assembled in a precise manner to store the right information. Otherwise, we can become very sick. There is no science that can explain how atoms can come together to form the DNA, to store information for the cell.
The cell membrane is what is colored in dark orange. It is the outer covering for the cell. It surrounds all the internal components. It is what makes a cell a cell. This is a cross-section of the cell membrane. Atoms are assembled together to form molecules, like the phospholipid molecules, which in turn forms the outer and inner layers of the membrane. There is no science that can explain how atoms can come together to form the cell membrane, to allow a cell to exist. Without cell membrane, there is no cell. Without cells, there is no life of any kind.
The science we know today, by definition, is the only science, or it is mere speculation. If there is not any basis as to how atoms come together to form cells, we cannot even call it theory. We do not have any science that explains the formation of cells, the basic unit of any life. Based on science today, according to Professor James Tour, life should not exist anywhere in our universe. Life should not even exist on the surface of the Earth. Though it does. Professor Tour's credentials are so very long that I will not read for you. Suffice to say that he is one of the top scientists in our world today.
Yet, the general public have been made to believe as if science is close to understanding the origin of life. As if scientists understand and have science that explains how atoms came together to form the cells that created life. Truth is opposite to what has been portrayed to us. In the words of Professor Tour, how far afield we have gone in projecting to the public our knowledge of life's origin.
We have just covered two truths on science and the origins of life. Firstly, the inadequacy of science today to explain the origin of life. And secondly, even when science uncovers more laws, science has no explanation for the existence of these laws. People who believe that these scientific laws simply just exists believe in their existence by faith, not science. Christianity is also a faith.
Christianity is a faith that believes that the God who created the universe, with a clear purpose, also established scientific laws to manage natural processes. God is executing a plan, through Jesus, with a finale to come, to fulfill this purpose.
The question is not whether we hold a faith. We all do. The question is what faith we hold.
I now see this, and agree with you.
You know, what faith we hold is a matter of individual choice. But you also need to know, God holds each person accountable for this choice. Ultimately, this is a choice on whether we want to spend eternity with God or not. God sacrificed to create a path, through Jesus Christ, for those who want to spend eternity with Him. Have a listen to this verse.
For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For His invisible attributes, namely His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse.
Now that we have covered the meaning of life, in relation to the purpose of the universe, and the truth of where science is today, regarding life, let us now talk about meaning in life, and the science of mental well-being, in relation to Christianity.
You know, although science today cannot tell how atoms come together to form cells, and therefore life, science today does tell us certain specific domains of activities are beneficial to the health of our brain cells. In other words, it is as if our cells are encouraging us to perform these particular domains of activities in our lives.
It does seem that way. But why?
It is because our cells are designed to help us, align to the ultimate meaning and purpose of life. This is not a coincidence. Let us give you just a few examples to illustrate this. It is not random chance that pain sensors are activated in human brains when humans are at risk of isolation. Our bodies, including our brain cells, are designed to need good relationships. The notion of good relationship existed before the creation of time and space. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit were, and are, in good relationships. Human cells are designed to help humanity reflect this attribute of God. It is not random chance that our cells behave this way. God put in place scientific laws to govern our cells, to meet the purpose of mankind, to reflect the glorious attributes of God. So, we should not be surprised to hear that the two greatest commandments are about good relationships. Have a listen to these Bible verses.
Which commandment is the most important of all? Jesus answered, The most important is, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this, You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these.
Our cells are designed to be more healthy when our lives engage in good relationships, which reflect this glorious attribute of the three-in-one God, who created our universe.
I think I have always known that relationships are important. But I have not thought beyond why this notion of relationship exists at all. When you kept saying, not a coincidence, I assume you are saying the notion of relationship does not even need to exist at all in us, but it strangely does. Now I also understand the reason. Thanks.
Let us go through a few more to make this point clear.
The Bible does not describe God as a creator who put the universe in place and then leaves it alone. Thousands of Bible verses tell us that God actively works, engages, and accomplishes tasks in His creation. Think about it. The notion of engagement and accomplishment need not exist at all. But they do. God created mankind to engage with His environment and to accomplish tasks, so that we know, and see, and reflect these glorious attributes of God. So that we give glory and honor to God. This is why our brain cells have been designed to encourage us, to engage, and to accomplish.
It is good that science tells us, but we can actually see people's need for transcendence without science. We see people all around, craving to be associated with things, human causes, and other human beings, greater than themselves. We see people longing to follow idols, celebrities, athletes, successful businessmen, and leaders in various fields, who are greater than self. We stand on top of a mountain, and we feel exhilaration at the vastness of space, outside of self. We see people dedicating their lives to various humanistic movements, outside of self-interest. The notion of transcendence does not need to exist at all in us, but it does. God transcends every human being, and everything in the universe.
With God, all things are possible. Great is our Lord, and abundant in power. His understanding is beyond measure. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God. Worthy are you, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power. For you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created.
Our cells are designed to be more healthy when our lives engage in thoughts, words, and deeds that sincerely give glory and honor to the great God who created our universe.
Our cells are healthier when we have positive emotions and thoughts. This also points us to the supreme meaning of life. Have a listen to the following correlations between the science of ourselves and teachings in Christianity.
In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore.
Ourselves are designed for us to find pleasure in knowing God and His goodness.
Give thanks to Him, bless His name.
Ourselves are designed for us to give thanks to God.
Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you.
Ourselves are designed for us to forgive others as God forgives us.
Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. He has put eternity into man's heart.
Ourselves are designed for us to hope for and understand the meaning of eternity with God. Emotions and notions of pleasure, gratitude, forgiveness, hope, and future need not exist at all. But they strangely do. God created mankind with these attributes so that we can understand the purpose and meaning of life.
You know, our cells can encourage us to perform certain activities. But it is still up to us how, or whether, we respond according to the design of our cells. There are at least 3 ways we can respond. We can ignore the needs of our cells, which is not good for our mental health. Or we can perform these activities, which are good for our mental health. But we treat these activities as end in themselves, as final objectives in life, as meaning in life, with no context to meaning of life, and no context to God, the designer and creator of life. Or we can perform these activities in context to the supreme meaning of life, to the ultimate purpose of mankind, and to God.
Yes, I can see the different choices people can make. I suppose you will also say, God designed us with the ability to make choices.
Yes, and He holds us accountable for the choices we make.
To summarize, we will quickly reel through the truths we have given you. With regard to science, it is important to differentiate between what science can explain today and what it cannot.
Science today cannot explain how atoms can possibly come together to form cells, the basis of life. Science has no scientific laws to explain the origin of life.
Also, science cannot explain how scientific laws came into existence to govern matter and energy. Those who believe scientific laws just simply exist is believing in it by faith, not science. They cannot claim logical superiority over believing God exists. Sir Isaac Newton is widely recognized as one of the most influential scientists of all time, and is founder of many scientific laws. Listen to what Newton said about believing in God.
He who thinks half-heartedly will not believe in God. But he who really thinks has to believe in God.
Christians believe that God created scientific laws to govern natural processes in the universe. Christianity absolutely embraces science in its explanation of life.
Despite where science is today, science is able to show us that certain domains of activities contribute to good mental health. We saw that various notions that does not need to exist at all are designed into our cells to guide us toward the meaning of life.
In the last 30 years, these good domains of activities have been made to represent meaning in life.
Meaning in life does not equate to meaning of life.
Meaning of life is a term which represents the invariant and universal purpose of human existence.
The invariant and universal purpose of human existence is for expressing displaying, reflecting, and echoing the many glorious attributes of God for eternity.
There are two ways to live out meaning of activities in life. Both ways fulfill the meaning of life, fulfill the universal purpose for human existence.
One way is to live life, having a personal relationship with God, truly experiencing the attributes of God, and joyfully expressing praise for God through thoughts, words, and deeds. This is living out life according to the supreme meaning of life.
You know, no one can do this, even to a tiny degree, without the divine intervention of God through Jesus Christ. Without Jesus paying the sins of believers, no one can have a relationship with the absolutely holy God.
With the help of the Holy Spirit, believers live lives with activities contextualized to the supreme meaning of life, even though imperfectly, and with regular failures.
To reiterate, using other words, the supreme purpose of human life is to start, and eventually reach, a rich, personal, bidirectional relationship with God. Such human lives experientially receive delight from God due to God's attributes, and in return, give genuine heartfelt praise to God. These lives are living testimonies to, and supremely communicate, the glorious attributes of God.
These lives especially show the gloriousness of God's love, in how God sacrificed His only Son to suffer torture and a cruel death to pay for sins on behalf of sinners who believe. God's justice, seen in God's sacrifice of His Son, so that the link between sin and punishment is not violated, whilst saving sinners. God's grace and mercy, by saving undeserving sinners, with salvation being a free unmerited gift for the sinner. God's faithfulness, in that God never forsakes those He saved. These are just a few examples, among many others, that show how lives that personally know God conform to the ubiquitous meaning of life by being vessels that communicate God's attributes.
The other way is to live life with no personal relationship with God. Meaning is found in pursuing skills, knowledge, wealth, health, jobs, sports, morals, religiosity, rituals, rules, people, leaders, beauty, popularity, and so on. In short, such lives find meaning from within creation, detached from the Creator. Unbeknown to people who lead such lives, they too live lives according to the universal purpose of human existence. These lives are also living testimonies of the glorious attributes of God for eternity. These lives especially show the gloriousness of God's patience, as seen by God's endurance of the many years of insults and indifference towards Him, waiting for such lives to turn around and accept His mercy and love. God's absolute purity, to be shown by His total and absolute rejection of even the smallest sin. God's justice, to be shown by His execution of punishment of sinners for sins committed. God's majesty and sovereignty over all will be seen by His authority to judge and execute sentences, even on those who think they are great and mighty, and those who ignore Him or reject His existence. These are just a few examples, among many others, that show that even lives that ignore or reject God conform to the ubiquitous meaning of life, to show the glorious attributes of God.
The purpose of the universe is for the glory of God. Mankind, as part of the universe, fits into this overall purpose.
We hope you can now see how science fits into psychology, into philosophy, and into Christianity, in a harmonious way, to explain the meaning of life. We also hope you can now see a glimpse of how wonderfully 3 octillion atoms in each human body operates together to understand notions and emotions that guide humanity toward the meaning of life, which fits within the meaning of the universe, which is for the glory of God.
It was, indeed, a very long video. So thank you for your patience and endurance. We hope we managed to adequately explain this vital question. What is the meaning of life for you?
May we wish that the true meaning of life will resonate in you, and that you will walk the path that leads to immense joy for eternity.